Yo, I am Dr. Cool. When we talk about real innovation, innovation that serves the common man, not billion-dollar corporations, names like Elon Musk often get thrown around, but today I want to introduce you to a name far more meaningful to everyday people. Peter Mbiria, a Kenyan engineer who took electrical and electronic engineering class seriously, not to make a quick buck, never knew a day like this will be born to put his passion into solving real problems that plagued millions across diverse race. But to solve a problem born from real life. Here is a clip of his innovation reviving old model vehicles since Adam back to the street, performing even better than your new model vehicles.
This African genius is secretly turning old cars into new modern vehicles.
That's what our Volter ECU does to the old engines.
Had been limited by my use of carburetor vehicles.
So yes, you have 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s engines that now can perform like a modern engine.
I had changed the carburetor 3 times, and the third one was really consuming it. I spent almost 13,000, 11 to 13,000 on fuel, and with the regular vehicle, I spent about 5,000. Any make I called was not able to solve that issue. So I parked the vehicle for almost a year until I met Peter through a mutual friend.
If not for this man, these vehicles would become relics. But for Gearhead, this man is the reason they can enjoy older vehicles.
Imagining chiseling durability into new modern-day vehicles. That's something the industry don't want. What Peter is doing right now and ready to design ECU based on your engine configurations. No engine is too old for his technology. Did I mention that your old gas-guzzling superbikes will have second chance to get EFI system from Peter without costing arms, legs, or your kidney? I will share more clips of his amazing jobs as we progress in this video. For this moment, let's journey into the two rabbit hole. First, the journey of Peter Mbiria, and second, the romantic affairs between the automotive industry and governments at the expense of the citizens no one is talking about. It started with a personal frustration, too much fuel consumption. That's your problem, and what the big oils are popping champagne over. Instead of complaining or blending into the matrix carrot donkey system, his tinkering outside the box is now a renewed hope. Instead of tossing his old Volvo or Mercedes into crush yard, Peter Mbiria rolled up his sleeves. Driven by necessity, curiosity and determination, he has begun to change the world in a way the Western automotive industry would absolutely hate, and for good reason. Let's rewind the clock a little. You see, the automotive industry today, compared to what we had decades ago, is a complete farce. Back then, pioneers built cars with soul, solid, durable, elegant, mechanically simple, yet extremely reliable. Fast forward to today, and the romance between car manufacturers and world politicians has turned into a financial stampede, with the poor customer right at the bottom of the food chain. Have you noticed it too? Modern cars feel soulless. Their colors are uglier, filled with useless gimmicks and fragile tech. And that's no accident. It's by design. Aluminum blocks, a wolf in sheep's clothing. Let's dig deeper. Previously, engine blocks were made of cast iron, tough, durable, and reliable beyond measure. The engine block is the heart of combustion, the chamber where air and fuel are compressed, ignited by a spark, and turned into power. But there was a problem. For the manufacturers, not for you. Cast iron engines refused to die. They could easily clock 1 million kilometers or over 600,000 miles without major issues. You could replace worn-out cylinder sleeves and piston rings without changing the entire engine. This durability wasn't profitable. So, in closed rooms where politicians and automakers sat at the same table, new decisions were made. Switch to aluminum blocks under the guise of reducing weight and heat efficiency. Eliminate sleeves in many engines or make them extremely thin and prone to wear. Design engines to wear out faster, pushing customers to buy new cars or replace entire engines at insane costs. Durability was quietly sacrificed on the altar of profit. Once they weakened the engine's foundation, the next step was to downsize engines. They sold it to the public as eco-friendly innovation. Instead of big, naturally aspirated engines that could last 500,000 plus miles, they gave you tiny engines and bolted on turbochargers or superchargers to artificially boost power. Sounds fancy, right? But here's the truth. Turbochargers are complex, fragile, and expensive. Turbo engines generate more heat and stress, wearing out faster than older designs. When the turbo or supercharger fails, and it will, you're staring at a massive repair bill. It's like sitting on a ticking time bomb, hoping the detonator doesn't malfunction prematurely. Let's flip to the next chapter of this freak show. Manual transmissions were simple, tough, easy to fix, and could last almost forever. That was bad news for companies hoping to sell more parts and services. The solution: push automatic transmissions everywhere. Make them complicated. Fill them with sensors, solenoids, and electronics prone to failure. Design them in ways that require specialized tools and dealership-only servicing. Suddenly, something that could last 300,000 miles, like a manual gearbox, was replaced by units barely surviving 100,000 miles and costing $5,000 to $12,000 to replace. It wasn't innovation. It was planned obsolescence disguised as progress. All the while, governments kept tightening regulations, supposedly to save the planet. But behind the scenes, it was all about creating confusion and dependency, introducing stricter emission laws, forcing cars to burn more fuel through bad engineering, taxing you at every turn while pretending they were protecting you. More sensors were added, more electronics to fail, more complex fuel systems like the Electronic Fuel Control or EFC. The goal was never true progress, it was maximum financial extraction from the customer. As old vehicles refused to die, manufacturers and governments banned or restricted classic cars under environmental pretexts. Scene 2: War on Reliability. They killed the simple carburetor, replacing it with electronic fuel injection systems and constant velocity carburetors that promised better performance but delivered endless headaches. These new systems could never be tuned properly without expensive tools, pushing frustrated owners toward newer, more fragile and profitable systems. They waged war on reliability, plain and simple. While this matrix of greed engulfed the automotive world, Peter Mbiria found himself at a crossroads. Scene 5: Refusing the new normal.
Start. Love that sound. Now the ECU can run even a motorbike. Yeah, looks chaotic. All this will be
savior.
Back in the years, this was the improved version of the carburetor. At that time, it was efficient. But as time has gone by, getting original, genuine spares for the FD has become quite a challenge.
When we met, he explained to me what he does, but a lot of people have stories. So he invited me over, and I came, and I saw what he does, and I was able to be driven in one of the vehicles that he had just fixed at the time.
So what is happening is you're looking at live engine data, okay? And when you rev it a bit, you can see the RPM increases, and of course the fueling parameters increases at the same time. And this is the data that I need when I'm tuning it or when I'm troubleshooting it. So this tells me a lot.
This car here is a brand new vehicle on the inside. Nothing may look different outside, but this car is as good as modernized and new. It performed 5 kilometers per liter before and now consumes a massive 14 kilometers per the same liter, which is insane.
First of all, it's an affordable conversion compared to how much I was spending on mechanics and on fuel. I'm sure even how much I spent on this, within 4 months, I will have recovered that based on the amount I will have saved on fuel.
The secret is this African genius and his proprietary technology, the Volter ECU, which he designed himself.
My name is Peter Mbiria, founder of Volter Engineering Limited. I'm a local, born in Thika.
It's a real life changer built by 34-year-old Kenyan engineer Peter Mbiria, whose passion and ingenuity are rewriting the rules of automotive history.
So this is a W123 with an M102 2.3 liter engine. And originally it came with this Bosch cage system. You can see it has mechanical fuel injectors, more or less like the diesel. At that time, they were being made back in the years. This system was very efficient, but 40 years later, you don't get proper kit to rebuild this FD system. So what you find is you normally have hard starts or even high fuel consumption because of this FD system. So what we do at Volter is take out this FD system, and then we modernize it. We add fuel injectors, custom fuel rail, of course fuel regulator, and where we had the lead wires, this is responsible for the sparking in the spark plugs. We remove this, and instead we replace them with column plugs, individual column plugs, meaning each spark plug has got its own ignition coil. So you have 4 up there because now this is an inline 4. And after this, there is now a custom harness that now goes to the ECU that is inside the engine control unit. And then we control it and it runs the engine. So it runs the engine as a modern engine. So we do away with the old system and in with the new system for more performance, better fuel economy and reliability.
Carburetors were popular during the 80s and 90s. They mixed fuel and air to power engines. But as environmental concerns grew and technology advanced, car makers began to fade out carburetors.
So this is the Bosch cage system. This is what we call the FD or the fuel distributor. It's just the buffer plate and the rest. And back in the years, this was the improved version of the carburetor. So it was in between the carburetor and the EFI system. So it was in between. So it was electromechanical. Part of it was purely mechanical, part of it was electrical. It had even this electrical injector for cold starts. At that time, it was efficient. But as time has gone by, getting original genuine spares for the FD has become quite a challenge. You see, my background is in electrical and electronics engineering, where we learn how to design motherboards. Okay, we have basics of electronics like Class A amplifiers, Class B, Class C, okay? And we learn about different laws, Kirchhoff's laws, and that just explain about loads on PCBs or printed circuit boards. We know how to design circuits, so we are able to create custom motherboards from scratch without issues. About Volter Engineering Limited, what is it all about? Basically, it's all about research and development, and we have a couple of innovations under our company. The latest being vehicle ECUs. What I mean by that is engine control units, or ECM's engine control modules. What they do is just control how an engine runs. And the reason as to which or why we began working on vehicle ECUs is the fact that I still own a Mercedes-Benz 1984 model W201. And when I purchased it, it was still carbureted. I used it for like 2-3 years, and I had tinkered with it to a point where I couldn't get more out of it. With a carburetor, I had learned that you can either tune it for fuel economy or performance, okay? If you tune it for fuel economy specifically, you lose on performance. If you tune it for performance, you lose on economy. You had to, get a middle ground on your tuning. So you couldn't get best of both worlds. And after 3 years, I was like, do we have other solutions out there that could help me achieve the fuel economy and performance at the same time? So of course, the immediate solution, what majority of people do, is swap the engine out with a successor. In my case, you take out the M102 engine that is on the W201, and you install the successor, which was the M111 engine, okay? And bearing in mind I had overhauled my M102 engine, I couldn't go back and spend another 100k plus Kenya shillings to purchase another engine. So the option of swapping the engine was out. And then I was like, what else can I do? The immediate or the other solution was to use the Bosch cage system, which was more powerful than the carburetor. But the challenge was getting quality parts for the FD system was a challenge. And the stories I've had with the majority of people who have used the Bosch cage system is getting the spares. It's a nightmare. And when the system fails in the middle of the road, you have to tow that car.
This left a problem. Peter turned this temperamental, inefficient, and frankly outdated system into modern, fuel-efficient systems. Like many pioneers, he started as a tinkerer, fascinated by the inner workings of machines.
So now what I'm doing at the moment is reading all the sensory data, okay? Because for the EFI system, it needs a couple of inputs. For instance, there's the temperature sensor, there's the camshaft position sensor, we have the map sensor behind there, and then we have the throttle position sensor. Okay.
Long before he became renowned for transforming old vehicles, he spent countless hours driven by a simple idea: no engine is too old to be reborn.
So what makes the Volter ECU different is the fact that it's designed from scratch with a focus on running the old engines. It doesn't mean it won't run a modern engine, no. But the main focus is to be minimalistic, okay? It doesn't need many of the sensors to make the engine run. It just needs very few but key sensors, for instance, engine temperature, the manifold absolute pressure, camshaft position, okay? Specifically camshaft, and rotor position. That's it. Of course, I have not mentioned oxygen sensors, I have not mentioned NOx sensors, I have not mentioned crankshaft sensors, I have not mentioned like even oil pressure, fuel pressure. There are so many sensors, okay? In our case, we just reduce the number of sensors to bare minimum, enough to make the engine run reliably, okay? You're looking at live engine data, okay? And when you rev it a bit, you can see the RPM increases, and of course the fueling parameters increases at the same time. And this is the data that I need when I'm tuning it or when I'm troubleshooting it. So this tells me a lot, which is very useful for the ECU.
And the proof is in the performance. With advanced algorithms and real-time monitoring, his ECU fine-tunes the engine's every move.
So I come here on my laptop because I just need to extract the data, engine run data on the laptop. So I turn it on, the ECU is ready to start the engine. So I go back inside and crank it, like so.
Peter's vision goes beyond performance. He's determined to tackle the environmental drawbacks of old engines.
My dream is to go fully global. I believe there are millions of these vehicles around the world, and due to climate change, of course, I would want to contribute, lower the emissions, and that's part of the reason as to why I'm pushing this issue out there, because it allows the old generation engines to lower the emissions to modern standards. Okay, what the government categorizes as good or acceptable emissions, that's what our Volter ECU does to the old engines. So yes, you have 60s, 50s, 70s, 80s, 90s engines that now can perform like a modern engine. These carburetors were good when they were being used back in the days, back in 80s, 90s. These systems were pretty good because their work was to just mix air and fuel. That time there were no strict fuel guidelines. They were not as strict, not like nowadays. And so as time went on, they moved away from the carburetors to now fuel injection.
And indeed, drivers who once struggled with poor mileage now report improvements that would have been unimaginable in the past. One local driver, Stephen Mbugwa, a farmer and traveler, now enjoys good mileage.
First of all, it's an affordable conversion compared to how much I was spending on mechanics and on fuel. I'm sure even how much I spend on this, within 4 months, I will have recovered that based on the amount I will have saved on fuel.
Now, with proper fuel metering comes fuel economy, okay? At the same time, when you don't need the computer to feed fuel to the engine, it doesn't. For instance, when you've accelerated, you're cruising, and then you let go of the acceleration, the computer will notice the engine is no longer loaded. So what it does is it cuts off the fuel completely until now the engine RPMs goes low to a certain, maybe up to idle RPMs. That's when now it starts adding fuel so that the engine doesn't store. Okay, so there are so many occasions where the computer will shut off the fuel so that now you try to get better fuel economy without affecting the performance. So the performance comes out where fuel is delivered at the right time and it gets the right ignition at the right time. Now you can produce more power. The main features that the Volter ECU introduces to the old engines is the fact that now the owner will get to define how they want their engine to run through the drive modes. So stock, it comes with 4 drive modes. It has the Eco Plus, that is the least, it's the leanest, okay, and it's best for cruising. Then you have economy. Economy is the most balanced, okay? So it gives you better fuel economy, at the same time gives you a feel of performance, because even on a fuel economy, you can easily hit 140 or 150 kph, okay? Then you have comfort. Comfort is slightly more powerful than fuel economy, meaning it gives you that oomph during acceleration. And it doesn't mean now that it's comfort, it will consume a lot more. No. Just slightly more. Just a bit, okay? Also depends on your driving style. And then the last one, we have sport. And sport squeezes everything out of that engine, okay? If the engine at any one time could produce 200 brake horsepower, it will try to produce that 200 horsepower at any one time, okay? Even if the manufacturer specified that this engine is 120, the computer can squeeze easily 160, 180 out of it because of the precise fuel metering and ignition.
At the core of Peter's transformation is this Volter ECU. Unlike generic solutions, this standalone device is engineered to handle the unique demands of classic engines.
The computer is able to meter fuel precisely, the amount of fuel the engine needs at any one time, okay? And it calculates the amount of fuel the engine needs for every cylinder, okay? At the same time, it calculates the ignition angle for every cylinder. What that means is at any one time, it's striving to produce the best or the most power out of that engine, of course, based on the selected drive mode.
And Peter's journey is one of resilience. There were moments of doubt, long hours spent troubleshooting, and countless prototypes that didn't make the cut.
I bought a guinea pig engine, and that engine I was to use it for research purposes. So I began designing my own board to control just fuel delivery, okay? But then one thing led to another, so I would achieve fuel delivery. But for it to be efficient, I wanted now to do a little bit more. For instance, use different injectors. I had started with Nissan Tida. I went and tried using Toyota, and then I settled on Mercedes-Benz injectors. I was just doing research. That's all about research, okay? Trying out different things until you get the one that works. And then I got to the point where now I am required to control ignition, okay? Because with fuel delivery alone, you still don't have full control of the engine. So I wanted to control the ignition. So I began researching on which is the best ignition coil to use. What are the characteristics of the ignition coil? Like deeper details like dwell times and all, voltage and all those things I had to learn and design my ECU accordingly, because now I settled on denser column plugs.
It solved long-standing issues but also improved the entire driving experience.
So on April 2022, I migrated the system from the guinea pig engine to my W201 M102 engine, okay? And the moment I hit the road and posted the video, people were like, oh, so this thing was actually doable. Because during the process of research, people are just like, this is just another random guy trying to tinker with things. Well, until they saw the vehicle on the road and they were like, oh, this guy was serious, okay? And people beginning questioning about, okay, now that we have seen it's running, what are the costs, the reliability, such kind of things.
For many Kenyan drivers, older vehicles are more than just modes of transportation. They are cherished memories, family heirlooms, and symbols of a past era. Stephen Mbugwa, a farmer with a passion for travel, had long been frustrated by the high fuel consumption and frequent breakdowns of his carbureted vehicle.
I spent almost 13,000, 11 to 13,000 on fuel, and with a regular vehicle, I spent about 5,000.
Some of the customers get their returns on investments almost immediately, because most of them, the vehicles come on flatbed. So the vehicle drives out on its own, that's immediate plus, okay? There are those whose vehicles are driving, but they perform poorly in terms of fuel economy. For instance, the Land Rover that I've just shown you came doing 1.8 kilometers per liter. And as we speak right now, it's doing 6 to 8 kilometers a liter. Mind you, there's a 3.9 V8. Jumping from 1.8 kilometers per liter to 8 is a big deal, okay? And that's per liter, not per full tank.
That was extremely amazing. My goodness, it's so satisfying to watch African young minds without billions, research labs or multi-trillions dollars industries genuinely solving our everyday problems, offsetting the global tablet order of big cooperation romantic affair with big automotive industries. I suppose you have just finished watching that video footage of Peter Mbiria, the young African engineer that is set to rewrite the rules of automotive industries in favor of vast millions of customers out there from different walks of life. Plagued by outdated technology that bleeds them daily, the automotive industries will never want to look at, because it's never their primary objective or plan to make life easy for you in the first place. These monsters are money freaks, creating problems that leaves you halfway down the road, getting you stuck in the middle of nowhere. Automobile may be fun or just a device to get you from point A to B. However, in African rural communities, these are lifelines for survival. For those who have been deprived of the necessity of mobility and thrown into the room filled with flying giant elephant. This isn't some science fiction fantasy. This is real and it works. Like it or not, your new model cars are perfect broiler chickens, so weak and fragile, and your old classic cars are your typical local chicken that don't get deterred by weather conditions or bad terrain with a touch from engineer Peter Mbiria. We're talking about a genuine game changer in the world of energy consumption. We moan about fuel prices for our cars. It's time to wake up and realize that there's a better way. A way to subtly leap into the future, where technology provides solutions that don't always have to cost arms and legs or kidney, perhaps to enjoy our creature comforts without the hefty energy bill. Frustrated with the poor carburetor performance of his car, he refused to accept the new normal. Instead of falling in line, he went back in time, studying real engineering when durability mattered. He isn't trying to fit in with Silicon Valley billionaires. He isn't here to sell you a subscription plan for your car's air conditioning. He's not looking to update your engine over Wi-Fi. No, he's solving real problems for real people. Peter Mbiria is reviving the soul of vehicles, restoring durability, boosting fuel economy the right way, not with corporate tricks, giving power back to the common man, not greedy corporations. As someone who owns 3 sports superbikes, I can tell you firsthand. My Suzuki has over 600,000 miles. My Honda CBR 600F clocks over 400,000 miles. No oil burning, no engine failure. Their only issue? Yes, too much fuel consumption. Compare that to modern EFI bikes and you'll see. Engines falling apart before 100,000 miles, transmission systems giving up, expensive repairs for every tiny malfunction. This is why Peter Mberia's work is more important than Elon Musk's glitzy PR campaigns. He's not just building gadgets, he's undoing decades of engineered financial slavery. Take a step back and look at the broader timeline. Scene 8, the profit motive. From cast iron blocks to aluminum, more profits. From manual gearboxes to automatics, more profits. Scene 9, endless profits. From internal combustion engines to hybrids, more profits. From hybrids to electric vehicles, endless profits. Now electric vehicles with subscription-based features, so you pay endlessly even after buying the car. Even the so-called updates are often designed to cripple old systems, forcing you into expensive upgrades. The entire system is a roller coaster of engineered problems: turbo failure, oil burning, transmission breakdowns, electrical system nightmares. All created so you bleed money while they swim in unimaginable wealth. Peter Mberia's story reminds us of what true engineering looks like: service to humanity. Service to humanity, not exploitation. He refuses to accept the broken system. He dares to dream of cars that are simple, efficient, durable, and affordable again. In a world obsessed with fancy gimmicks, subscription fees, and designed failures, Peter Mbiria is a lighthouse in a stormy sea, a real-world hero for the working man. He's proof that not all innovation has to be a death sentence to your wallet, and that, my friends, is the true revolution the automotive industry never.
Thanks for joining us on this journey. If you enjoyed the video, don't forget to like and subscribe for more intriguing content.